From this lesson, we will learn about forms. There is quite a lot to learn about forms, so we'll take it step by step. In this first one, we will learn about the basic structure of a form. Form is an interactive area on a web page specifically used for user-provided data. Let's take Amazon as an example. When I click the Sign In button at the top right, here, the part inside this red box is actually a form. Or if we click the Create Your Amazon Account button, this part is also a form. It indicates a name input field, a phone number or email input field, a password field, a confirm password field, a submit button, and some hyperlinks. Each of these parts is called a form control. Now, let's return to the code and give it a try. A form is represented by the form tag. Here, it automatically generates an action attribute for us. We don't need it for now, so let's delete it, and we'll add it back later when we need it. The purpose of a form is to collect user input data, so an important element is the input tag. We've mentioned this tag in previous lessons. The type attribute here is used to control the type of the input field. The meaning of text is that the content entered in the input field is plain text. Next, we'll create a button. Buttons are created with the button tag. And then you can write the text displayed on the button inside the tag. Here, I'll write search. Alright, let's open this with Live Server. In this form, we can import content in the input field. Type HTML and then click the search button to search. Now, here's a question. When we click the search button, doesn't the browser need to take the data from the input field and contact something to search? For example, Google can be used for searching, right? Bing can search, and Yahoo can also perform searches. So, who should the browser contact? This is why there's a particularly important attribute called action, which we manually deleted early. Note that the action attribute is not added to the input tag or the button tag. It is added to the form tag. For the action attribute, I'll choose to use Google for searching this time. Is that enough? Let's try it. Doesn't it just redirect to Google's homepage without performing the search? Okay, then I'll add the word search after Google's address in the action. Then I'll add an attribute to the import tag called name and set the value of name to the letter Q. Alright, let's try it again. So now we successfully search using Google, right? At this point, some of you might ask, how do I know to add search here and set name to Q? Who decides these? This involves knowledge about APIs. APIs are determined by the development teams of each search engine, so the content right here, including the name value, may differ for each search engine. Users can learn how to write these details by referring to the specification manuals they provide. But for now, let me introduce a way to judge based on experience. When you open a Google web page and search for something, observe the search result link. After the address, there is question mark. Before the question mark, it says search. And after the question mark, it says Q equals, followed by the content you entered in the import field, such as React or HTML, right? This is a combination of a name-value pair. Q is the name of the import field, and React is the value of the import field. This is why we add search to the address in the action attribute and set the name attribute of the import field to Q. Since we've come this far, let me introduce another concept. When I type something in the import field like Angular and click search, the browser takes what you entered and contacts Google. And Google will return a result. This first part is called a request. The second part, the feedback from Google, is called response. Let's try again. Here, I'll write the HR tag from the last lesson to separate the sections. And below, I'll create another form. This time, I'll set the action to Amazon. Let's search using Amazon. This time, we don't add search after it. Instead, we just write S. The name for the import field is not Q this time. Amazon requires it to be K. I'll set the button text to search Amazon, and maybe change the one above to search Google. Let me introduce another attribute of the form element called target, which controls how the page should open after performing a search. For example, if I set it to _blank, it means that the search result will open in New tab when you click the search button. Do you see that the search results open in a New tab? If we don't specify the target attribute, it defaults to _self, which means the search results will open in the current tab. Let's search for iPad now, and see that the results open in the current tab. Finally, let me introduce another attribute of the form element called method. There are several methods for submitting a form: get, post, etc. If we don't specify the method attribute, the default is get. At this point, you don't need to memorize these methods. Just have a basic understanding. When will we learn this in detail? That will be after we finish learning JavaScript. When we start a course called Ajax, at that time we will revisit this topic to discuss these request methods in depth. Additionally, when we learn Node.js and cover the HTTP protocol, we will provide a detailed explanation of these request methods. Okay, after class, you can download the notes for review. In this lesson, we simply introduce the basic structure of a form. The commonly used attributes of a form include action, specifies the URL to which the form data is submitted, and target works the same way as we discussed hyperlinks earlier. _self opens the result in the current tab, while _blank opens in the new tab. And a method, for now, just understand its basics. It will be covered in detail in future courses on Ajax and HTTP. For the import element, we have so far learned two attributes. Type. So far, we have only introduced the text type. And the other attribute is name, specifies the name of the data being submitted. The button element is simply a button. After class, practice what we have covered in this lesson, and then proceed to the next lesson. In the next one, we will explore the type attribute of the import element in more detail.